Does meditation actually work? There's a lot of hype around the effects of meditation, and some people essentially are claiming it to be the silver bullet, the magic pill, the magic thing that's going to fix any and all diseases and prevent all diseases. And maybe that's a little bit preposterous, but can we throw the baby out with the bathwater, or does meditation actually work for something? In this episode, we'll talk about what is meditation, what are different types of meditation, what does it work for, what does it not work for, and ultimately, should you meditate? And if so, how? I'm Dr. Anthony Davis with Shapeshift Wellness, and this is the Health or Hoax podcast. You can find the audio podcast under Health or Hoax, and you can find the video form under the Shapeshift Wellness YouTube channel. I help people with chronic pain to recover the active life that they love through lifestyle modifications, simple things like movement, exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress management, and reclaim the life that they deserve to be living. So if you want one-on-one help, you can book a free discovery call with me. The link is in the description. So let's get to it. Does meditation actually work? Well, the first thing that we need to explore here is, what are we trying to accomplish? So does meditation work? Well, work for what exactly? Does it work for stress management? Does it work for anxiety, depression? Does it work for, control of blood glucose for diabetic patients? That's a totally different outcome that we need to study versus stress. Does it work to make you feel better? Does it make your mood improve? Does it make you a kinder person? Does it improve your concentration or your memory? Does it actually do these things? So before we ask the question of, does meditation work, we need to know what we are trying to accomplish in the first place. What is the outcome that we desire? And then the second thing that we need to define is, what is meditation anyway? What counts as meditation? Because there are thousands, probably more than that, of different types of meditation. So what type of meditation are we trying to use, and what is the outcome that we desire? Because depending on how we mix and match those things, we may get good or bad results. So let's start by exploring, what is meditation? I think it's common for people who have never really explored meditation to think that meditation is sitting on a cushion, trying to think of nothing, trying to have zero thoughts in your head. And fortunately for you, that is one out of thousands of different types of meditation. And ultimately, the goal of most types of meditation is not to have zero thoughts. And that's good, because it is virtually impossible to have zero thoughts. So if you've tried to meditate and you've gotten frustrated at, I can't clear my head, I'm too anxious, or I just cannot clear my head, I'm bad at meditation. No, you're not. You're just trying the wrong kind of meditation. There are plenty of other types of meditation that you would be very successful at, that you could probably reap some benefits from. One of the most common types of meditation that is recommended in within meditation and yoga circles is just mindfulness meditation. This is also a type of meditation that is commonly prescribed by mental health counselors of various types to their patients, because it works, because it's a very low bar to entry, and it is effective. So what mindfulness meditation is simply to be aware of your thoughts without trying to push them away. So we're not trying to think of nothing. We're not saying, oh, there's a thought, I better push that away as fast as I can, otherwise I'm bad at meditation. No, we're also not getting hung up on thoughts. So for example, if I sit down and I set a 5-minute timer and I sit on a cushion and I close my eyes because I'm going to do 5 minutes of mindfulness meditation, I'm not sitting there thinking, okay, got to think of nothing, got to think of nothing, got to think of nothing, got to think of nothing. But when the thought pops up that, oh man, I really should have put the laundry in before I started meditation, maybe I'll go do that. When that thought pops up, and it tries to occupy my mind space, it tries to take over my mind space. Now, the goal here is to not get hung up on it. right? So allow that thought to come and then remind yourself that you're meditating and that thought, just like it popped out of nowhere, eventually it's going to go away. It's going to go back into nowhere. It's going to disappear into nothingness. And that it's going to probably be replaced by a new thought. Oh, later today, I've got to brush my dog. I've got to do this. I've got to do that, right? Fine. That's okay. So the only goal here is to be aware of the fact that thoughts are happening. And when they come, watch them like you're watching a movie and let the images flicker by without getting hung up on each individual image, and just let them come and let them go. Like clouds passing in the sky. We just watch them come and watch them go. So that's more of an approachable, accessible version of meditation. And people seem to have a lot more success with that. The importance here is that it teaches us necessary skills for dealing with anxiety or difficulty in our life. Because when we deal with difficult situations, something comes up that is difficult or challenging or doesn't fit our worldview or presents an obstacle in our path, and we can try to avoid it, which is out of touch with reality because we cannot always avoid all of the obstacles and pain in our life. So by practicing mindfulness meditation, we're learning the skill of not necessarily ignoring or trying to force bad things away. So we're making peace with the fact that this is life, this is reality right now. But it also gives us the tools to not cling to it so it does not have a lasting, devastating effect on our health via stressing out about things when they're not actually happening. For example, that fight that you got in with your significant other or your boss, and you're drilling it over and over and over again in your head for days afterwards until you can finally talk to them again. Well, what's happening is now you're creating excessive chronic stress patterns, excessive cortisol production, high blood pressure, excessively high heart rate. We are unable, therefore, because we are in a fight or flight mode, we are unable to rest and recover and regenerate and digest food properly and recover. So we are impacting our health in a negative way because we are clinging to these bad things that have happened or that we are anticipating will happen in the future. And the thing is that if we have, our boss called us and said, hey, we need to meet. Come in on Friday at noon. Okay, that sounds scary. Or your significant other says, hey, they text you and they say, hey, we need to talk. And you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, they're going to break up with me. This is terrible. And so you're playing, or maybe they found somebody else, or maybe this or that, or my boss, if it was your boss, maybe they're going to fire me. So you're coming up with all these scenarios in your head that are stressing you out, causing you to lose sleep over this, and causing excessive cortisol production in the body. You can't get out of fight or flight. But you may or may not be right about it. If you're right about it, even if you are right about what you think is going to happen, oh, my boss is going to fire me, there's still nothing you can do about it in the meantime. And if there's some due diligence that you can do, some kind of paperwork or some kind of thing that you need to put together or prepare, then do that. Go prepare for it. And then when you're done preparing for it, let it go and wait until you actually are going to confront your boss, right? Don't play it over and over and over again in your head. So this is why mindfulness meditation is such a powerful tool, is because it teaches you the skill that when a thing comes up and starts leeching, right, like a parasite off of your mental space, you have the skills to let it go. Okay. Now, I went into a great amount of depth with mindfulness meditation because I think it's the most popular type of meditation out there. It's what you're going to find in many, many apps. There are also tons of other types of meditation. There are visualizations like guided imagery, body scans, yoga nidra. There's non-sleep deep rest, which is my favorite kind of meditation, which is yoga nidra. There are all kinds of meditation. There's breath work. There's, pranayama. There's all kinds of different meditation. And some of them have different goals than other types of meditation. So for the purposes of this episode, we're talking mainly about mindfulness meditation, because in the literature, in the studies on meditation and its effects on the body and the mind, usually they're studying some form of mindfulness meditation. So that's why I gave you a thorough explanation of what that is. The other thing that I want to point out before we move on is that some activities, debatably, could be considered meditation. They may be meditative, even though they are not called meditation. For example, riding a bike. Anybody who is an avid cyclist will tell you that it is their meditation. Is it? I don't know. What do you think? I know that from a yogic perspective, many of the types of meditation that we're pursuing, especially in the Patanjali's yoga traditions, we are pursuing a single pointed focus. So we're trying to maintain our focus on one single thing without our focus deviating, without getting that shiny object syndrome and thinking about this and then this, and I got to do this later, and this is coming up. Just be totally focused in the present moment on the thing that is happening right now. And through that, in the yogic tradition, we would say that you're going to achieve this samadhi state, this state of oneness, of unification between you and the thing that's happening, to the point where the boundaries or the division between you and the thing that's happening, object and subject, subject and object, those boundaries dissolve, the dualism dissolves, and there's just oneness, there's just wholeness, there's just the present moment happening, right? There's no you, there's no the bicycle, it's just cycling. And cycling is you and the bicycle. It's both, right? So it's just the present moment. So if you have an activity that gets you to that state of unification, that state of oneness, of present moment, awareness, single pointed awareness, then debatably we could call that meditation. I don't think that there's any problem with calling that meditation, right? Because our meditation practice should be a practice teaching us the skills to practically live our lives in a more mindful fashion. So the practice is oftentimes on a cushion with our eyes closed, do some breathing, and then do some meditation. But the practical takeaway is that I should be able to take that single pointed mindfulness into all of my daily activities so that everything that I do is a meditation. So I think personally that anything you can do, whether it's bicycling, walking, running, exercise, yoga, painting, making music, any creative endeavor, I could name a million other things, but anything that you do that gets you into that frame of mind, I would consider meditation. Okay? So those things I would count, but the literature we're going to be talking about seated on a cushion, basically just being aware of your thoughts. Okay. Now it's important to notice that there is a quick disclaimer here of there is no single form of meditation that will work for everything and everybody in all conditions. Okay. So remember, because there are so many different types of meditation and so many different types of people, many people, I know many people who we've talked about meditation, they say, I can't meditate, it stresses me out. I can't meditate because when I focus on my breath, it gives me anxiety, it gives me panic attacks. I can't do this. Well, then you're doing the wrong kind of meditation. You can try a different kind and it will work, especially if we consider cycling, running, painting. If we consider all of those things meditation, then we're really free to say, oh, that's okay. Seated meditation causes you anxiety. Well, maybe in the future, we could return to it after we get good at doing these other forms of meditation that are more active. This is why in yoga, we start a yoga class with asana, which is physical postures, because that calms down the body, calms down the mind, so that when we get to the end of the yoga class and we do some meditation and relaxation or breath work, you are less likely to have anxiety. So if you're feeling really anxious and you try to just sit down and think of nothing, it's probably going to stress you out. But if you have high anxiety and you try exercising first, do any kind of exercise that you enjoy, and then try to sit down and do your meditation and just be aware of your thoughts, or be aware of your breath, just focus on the inhale and the exhale, you might have better success. I'll tell you a quick story about my own experience with meditation and panic attacks. I used to have really bad panic attacks. I used to struggle with drug and alcohol addiction. I've been sober at this point for almost 7 years. We're rounding the corner on that number here, and that's from alcohol. And I've been sober from drugs for, we must be coming up on 11 years there at that point. So I've been sober for a long time, but I used to get really bad panic attacks. And before I went to rehab for alcoholism, I was getting terrible panic attacks, and alcohol was my solution. It would make me feel less anxious, and it could stave off a panic attack. I was genuinely concerned that my panic attacks would result in an actual heart attack. I was 100% convinced that I was going to have a heart attack and die because of my panic attacks. And if it wasn't a heart attack, it was going to be a stroke or it was going to be a seizure. It was going to be one of those three things, but that was going to kill me. When I started to feel a panic attack coming on, I felt it physically, like this presence in my body, like a thing, I don't know. I don't want to say something weird and woo-woo, but it kind of sounds like it felt like this presence of energy that just swooped over me and was attacking me. I don't know how else to describe it. It was overwhelming, and I felt like I was being attacked by a physical thing that was coming at me and weighing me down. And going through my body. It was terrifying. I thought I was going to die, but here's what happened. I went to rehab. I didn't have my alcohol, so I could not use that to avoid the panic attacks. Eventually, now this is kind of, this was my own personal story, so please do not do what I did just because I did it, okay? This is not medical advice. For me, what happened was I made peace with it. Now, instead of running from the panic attack, instead of trying to dodge it or shake it off or run away from it, I finally just sat down and I said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm not going to have anxiety anymore. This is fucking ridiculous. Either this thing is going to come at me and actually kill me, and I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to have a stroke. I'm going to have a seizure. Something's going to happen. That's just going to happen, or it's not. There's only two options. It either happens or it doesn't. And I happen to be inside of a rehab facility where I know somebody is going to check on me within 30 minutes. So at the very least, hopefully I don't actually die. So that was my mindset. It was very intense. And so I sat up tall, I stared that fucking dragon right in its stupid eyeballs, and it came to swallow me whole. But as it passed through me, it transformed because I welcomed it like an old friend instead of dodging it like an enemy. And when it swept over me, the sensation of fear, of panic, of pain, of being overwhelmed, that all transformed, not just into a neutral sensation, but it transformed into an equivalently powerful positive sensation and euphoria. It was kind of crazy, actually. It was really, really amazing. So there was this mental alchemy that happened when I let go. I put my defenses down and I faced my fear, and it overwhelmed and became its powerful, positive opposite, right? It became euphoria. It was wild. And that's how I dealt with it in the future. It's not like that was the last time I started to get a panic attack. Every time that I would feel the panic coming on, I would just close my eyes, lift my chest and really get into an open posture. And I just basically said, come at me. Fucking come at me, bro. And it did. And I was capable of transforming pain into pleasure. It was so cool. Anyway, that's just my story. Let's talk about the research now. So I'm going to rattle off a couple of just research highlights. Okay, let's make this quick. So essentially, so one study looked at 8 weeks of meditation daily. They did 13 minutes of meditation, and we found that compared to the control group, who just listened to a podcast instead of doing meditation for 13 minutes daily, the meditation group had improved mood, memory, and anxiety. So cool. Fantastic. Mindfulness meditation may have some positive effect on your mood, your memory, and anxiety. Great. Love that. We had another study that was looking at meditation and yoga, both meditation and yoga, and they found that even just meditation did actually lower blood pressure. So that was pretty cool. I will point out, however, because the study also was looking at some, it's a meta-analysis where they look at multiple studies. And they, since they were including yoga and yoga helped to lower blood pressure, I want to point out that any form of exercise will do that. Cardiovascular exercise will do it, running, biking, hiking, that'll do it. And strength training, all of those things will measurably lower your blood pressure. So any activity works. It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be meditation. I found another really interesting study. This was unexpected. I expected this study to show no results. They were looking at diabetic patients, and they were measuring their blood glucose and insulin and other factors that go along with diabetes. And essentially what they found was that meditation lowered their blood glucose. So we lowered blood glucose for diabetic patients. How cool is that? Now, I think the reason why is because of the stress mitigating effects of meditation. And so if we change our stress, then we change the hormones that are circulating through the body, which changes insulin production, which allows the body to take blood sugar that's circulating through the blood and then store it in the body where it belongs, because we don't want that blood to just be circulating through the blood, or we don't want that sugar to be circulating through the blood. So I believe that, and this is what the article was suggesting, is that essentially it's most likely that we saw the results that we did because of the stress mitigating effects of meditation. So even for diabetics, we see that meditation can improve blood glucose, which is really, really cool. Again, I'll point out, exercise also does that. So you don't have to meditate. You can do other things. I would do both. If I had issues with blood glucose, I would do both. I would exercise and I would meditate. Exercise, I would focus more on exercise, to be honest. But I think that it's cool to see that meditation alone can have positive effects. And then many other studies have shown other positive effects. I'm just going to rattle off a few of them so that we don't get into the weeds here. So other studies have shown things like reduced stress, reduced anxiety, depression, lowered blood pressure, lowered pain. It can help with addiction, memory loss. We see improvements in focus, in mood, your actual kindness, which is pretty cool. It makes you a kinder person. And sleep and self-awareness. And there are other studies as well. So now, of course, we could pick apart these studies and show that, this study had a poor sample size or risk of bias or whatever. But I think the big picture here is that meditation does seem to have a positive effect on a lot of things, which is fantastic because meditation is free. It's free. You can do it for free at home, even if you don't know how to do it, because you can still just get on the internet and find guided meditations for free, right? And I realize that not everybody has the internet, but then I would say, okay, public library, et cetera. But, and even if you didn't, I think there are ways that you could find free meditation resources, okay, through government programs and things like that. So free is awesome, and something that you can do on your own is awesome because it builds self-efficacy, self-reliance. So that's huge. Now, in a second, I'm going to clarify, because just because meditation seems to help with everything doesn't mean that it's powerful. So let's make a distinction in just a second. But hey, real quick, if you've been struggling with chronic pain or recurring injuries and you've tried rehab that has not worked, you've tried chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, massage, and it's not helping, usually the reason is because they're not looking at you holistically. They're not looking at you as a whole human being. They're basically treating you like a machine. They're just treating the diagnosis. They're not treating you as a human being, right? And that's why when I rehab patients and clients online, whether it's online or in person, I take the time to get to know them. I take the time to understand the depth of their medical condition and history, their preferences, their likes, their goals. This is critical. And that's why we have better success, even where they've failed through all of these other alternatives. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, even if you're not in Colorado, I can work with you virtually. You can book a free discovery call and just get on the phone, chat with me, see if I can help. I hope that I get the chance to help you reclaim the active life that you love. Okay, now let's get back to the episode. So impact is different than cure, okay? So these things, so meditation having an impact on stress, anxiety, mood, blood glucose, hypertension, et cetera, is different than it being a cure for those things. It has an impact, but it does not cure them. Okay. So it can have an impact, and that impact might be small. It might be big. It totally depends. It depends on the individual, the type of meditation, how long you've been doing it, how long you actually do it each time that you do it. It depends on your history, your medical history. It depends on the goals that you're after. It depends on all of these variables. So your success, I guess this is where the disclaimer is, results may vary, right? So it's not magic. It can be a useful adjunct to a healthy lifestyle. In other words, if you are trying to prevent disease or prevent something in the future, or you're trying to treat an active medical condition or pain, either way, meditation is a useful part of treatment, but it should not be the only treatment. And just remember, again, to wrap things up here, is that we have a million different forms of meditation that we would actually call meditation. And on top of that, we have so many more things that are just activities that are meditative. And all of these things can be positive for your health. So whether your meditation is seated on a cushion, riding your bicycle, or painting on an easel, it counts. Now, I do think that there are some unique benefits to seated meditation and breath work, but if you want to start somewhere that's a little more accessible, I think that's just fine. So, health or hoax? Does meditation work? Yeah, meditation has some effect on a very wide variety of health-related outcomes. The results may vary. It may depend on the kind of meditation you're doing it, and it depends on the outcome you are trying to achieve. And all in all, we should not treat meditation as though it can be the only treatment. So just remember, does meditation work? Yes, but you should do other things as well. If you're treating pain or injury and rehabbing, you should also exercise in a graded fashion, and you should pick up heavy weight when your body tolerates that. You should get strong and mobile and improve your cardiovascular health and manage stress. And meditation, even for stress management, should it just be the only treatment? No, you should also work with a professional and have somebody in your corner to talk to. So you can see how meditation is an adjunct to treatment of basically anything, but it should not be the main course, so to speak. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. It would mean the world to me if you would leave a review if you're listening to this podcast in an audio format. If you're watching on YouTube, please, it would mean the world to me if you would hit that like and subscribe. It takes you 2 seconds, but it actually means the world to me. I am being redundant, but seriously, it really makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. And remember that movement is medicine, sleep is medicine, food is medicine, people, places, things. So you are empowered to reclaim the active life that you love.